We're having quite the storm here, so I don't know if my internet's going to hold out. But
oh, well, we have some rain, but it's not bad. No.
It's actually dark outside here. It's like nighttime. It's weird.
Oh, yeah. Houston can really get it. Okay. We talked to Geshe Nima this morning, and as some of you may know from looking at the emails, that the month of Sakadawa is coming up. And he wants to, among other things, he wants to have a session where if people want to take Bodhisattva vows, they can, or if people want to renew their Bodhisattva vows, they can. And so between now and then, I'm going to talk more about the Bodhisattva vows. Of course, it fits right into what we're studying, the Bodhisattva path here. So let's look at the opening prayers. This taking refuge in generating bodhicitta. I take refuge until I am enlightened, until I reach Buddhahood. And I take refuge in the enlightened beings, the Dharma realizations, the assembly of bodhisattvas is mainly what they're talking about here when they're talking about the Sangha. The Sangha that we actually take refuge in would be an assembly of bodhisattvas, highly realized bodhisattvas. Then it says, through the positive potential. Of course, we've talked about positive potential, sonam, this kind of positive energy that we need to accumulate in order to have a realization of emptiness. It just will not happen if we cannot accumulate enough of this positive energy, this positive potential, this sonam. So it's saying here in the third line there, through this positive potential, the sonam, that I create by listening to the teachings. And it's not just listening to teachings or studying teachings, but it's asking questions, understanding, really absorbing these teachings and understanding what they're saying. And then it says, and the other paramitas. And the paramitas, paramita can be translated as either far-reaching attitude. It's meaning over a long period of time, we're going to develop these paramitas. And another translation is perfections. And so we know them as the 6 perfections on the Bodhisattva path. And the 6 perfections are considered the Bodhisattva path, right? On the Bodhisattva path, as we talked about last time, 2 weeks ago, when you reach a certain level, the final perfection, which is the perfection of wisdom, gets expanded into 4 more. And so there are actually 10 perfections. So when we're saying this prayer at the beginning, we're talking about the whole Bodhisattva path here and what we need to do to accomplish it. And it's important that we do understand that, now that we're actually studying the Bodhisattva way, that we're taking Bodhisattva vows, we really should understand what we're saying here. So, and then the final line is, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. That is the whole point. That is the whole reason. And we'll be talking about that today, and how we can see other sentient beings as ourselves. Because we have to. If we don't do that, we won't make it. So I just wanted to go through that so we can, and then of course the 4 immeasurable thoughts. It's all about other beings. It's all about other beings having happiness, all about other beings being free from suffering. Hey, Tracy. So it's all about this. When we do the 7-limb prayer, any of you who have gone into depth on that, it's again all about the Bodhisattva path, realizing how we are connected to all other beings, the kind of refuge that we take in the enlightened beings and the Bodhisattvas, and the things that we need to purify in ourselves in order to be able to develop enough merit, enough sonam to be able to do this. And then the mandala offering, we're actually imagining the final outcome. The final outcome of all of this is everything, all consciousness and form, is purified. And so we sort of hold this in our mind. This is the final outcome, and then we make that offering to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and all sentient beings, really.
I think so, lineage is good to mention too.
Lineage.
Meaning Geshe Nima, His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Yeah. We are all part of a lineage here, and it just, and the lineage actually goes all the way back to Shakyamuni Buddha. If you study the history of Buddhism and then the history of Tibetan Buddhism, you know, we see that from one highly realized being to another, this lineage has been passed down, and it's passed down to us. It's passed down through the lamas who have come into our lives, Geshe Nyima, Geshe Dragpa, Geshe Sopa, all of the monks who have been here, and Venerable Rabina, exact same things. Her lineage is our lineage, you know, but it all goes back to the same thing. And so the lineage becomes very important to think about in all of this as well. So when we're thinking, I go for refuge to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas, we're also thinking of a lineage that we're part of. So that's just a little intro to these prayers, and then we can go ahead and say them. Sangye chedang soki choknam la, jangshu bardu dakni kyapsuchi, daki chenyang ipe sonam ki, rola penchir sangye duparto. Sangye chedang soki choknam la, Jangshu bardu dagni kyapsuchi, dagi chenyang ipe sonam ki, rola penchir sangye duparto. Sangye chedang soki choknam la, Jangshu bardu dagni kyapsuchi, Dagi chenyang ipe sonam ki, rola penchir sangye duparto. For immeasurables, may all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. And for those of us who are on the Bodhisattva path, then we say at the end of this, basically we say, I myself will develop the immeasurable love, the immeasurable love that works for the happiness of all sentient beings. I myself will develop the immeasurable compassion that works to free all sentient beings from suffering and its causes. I myself will develop the immeasurable joy that delights in seeing all sentient beings liberated from samsara and reach enlightenment. And I myself will develop the immeasurable equanimity that works to benefit all sentient beings, whether they appear to be friends, whether they appear to be enemies, whether they appear to be strangers. We actually are all one family of consciousness. And I myself will work for that. And then we say, may I be blessed by my lamas, my gurus, all of the Buddhas, all of the Bodhisattvas, with the power to accomplish this. So as on the Bodhisattva path, we add a little more to these prayers and have a little deeper understanding. Okay, we'll just read the 7-limb prayer. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merits of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until samsara ends and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate the merit created by myself and others to the great enlightenment. So we're dedicating all of our positive energy, all of our positive potential toward this enlightenment for all sentient beings. And then the mandala offering, where we're basically, as I said before, we're sort of imagining the outcome of all of this. We're imagining all that exists, every universe that could possibly be imagined, everything, all consciousness and form is working in perfect interdependence perfect connectivity. Sajipaki joksing meto Ramri radling ji Nidegyen pali Sangye jingdu mideu Rohunanda Chinga And then we offer it to all the enlightened beings and bodhisattvas as we say, Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Niryatayam. Okay, as you all know, Sakadawa is coming up. We spoke with Yeshanina this morning, and he is going to, I don't know what the date is going to be yet, where he wants.
He does.
Is it the
new moon day?
It's the 19th then? Same.
Friday, yeah, this is when the new moon is.
Okay.
So this is when he could do it.
So it's Friday the 19th. Friday the 19th of May.
9 p.m. his time, and I think it's 10:30 a.m. our time. So
For those of us,
work for school or wherever, get the app on your phone so you can at least just listen. Hear.
yeah, what he's going to do is he's going to give the Bodhisattva vows to those who want to take them, or renew them for those of us who have already taken them.
So we'll send links and everything, but seriously, even if you're at work or whatever, just run into the bathroom or
And take your Bodhisattva vow.
Doctor meeting and drive around the corner and just sit in your car for a half hour.
Anyway, he asked me to talk about the Bodhisattva vows between now and then, and go through them thoroughly so we really understand what it is we're doing. I mean, a lot of us when we are new to Buddhism, our teacher will say, you want to take the Bodhisattva vows, and we go, yeah, sure, sounds great, and we do it, and that's fine. That is absolutely fine. It's a good thing. It's a good start. At least we've read what they are, but there's more to it, more to understand about it. And especially as we're studying this Bodhisattva way, we're really understanding what that means, what the Bodhisattva vows are entailing, what it's all about. And vows are not there to restrict us. Vows are there to help us. I mean, sometimes we think of vows as something, oh, I don't want to take the vows because I don't want to have to do something that I don't think I want to do. Vows aren't like that. That's not what they're about. The vows are actually to help us on this path, to help us attain enlightenment, to help us help others. It's a good thing. So we should, when we think about vows, we shouldn't go, oh, vows, we should think of that as a good thing. Okay.
So just in general, watch your emails, because we'll have a web page devoted strictly to the various activities that we're going to organize around Sakadawa, including some links to what some other Buddhist centers are doing. His Holiness is giving a teaching, for example, during that time, during Sakadawa, 2 days at TCB, I think, in Dharamsala.
Hey, Dickie, do you want to explain to everybody what Sakadawa actually is?
Sure.
Okay.
So Sakadawa is actually, we call it a holy month, right? It is a holy month because, especially to everyone. So Sakadawa is the 4th month of a Tibetan calendar, and it's considered to be a holy month because during that month, Buddha, Sangye, we call it Sangye, right? Buddha, on the 15th day, on the full moon day, that's the day he got enlightenment, and that's the day he was born, and that's the day he passed away, on the same day. Mm. So that's why that month, the 4th month of the Tibetan calendar, is considered to be very holy month. So whatever you do, all the good karmas, a lot of chanting and everything, it doubles, it quadruples, it's like 100,000. Yes. So it is a really good idea from the day 1 of Sakadawa until the end of the month of Sakadawa. We do a lot of chantings, try to do good deeds, like help others, even the smallest thing. So it helps our karma, sonam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the sonam tremendous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you have it. I mean, if we want to accumulate a lot of sonam, Sakadawa is the time to do it.
When does it start? The actual beginning of the month? She said for the whole month, it's good deeds.
The 19th is the new moon.
I do have Tibetan calendar.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it starts on the new moon of the 4th month.
He's gonna look, but
She's got a Tibetan calendar. She's gonna check.
right
out.
now, what we have slated is from May 19th through June 4th, I think, is the full moon. Or 3rd.
Yeah.
I forget what the full moon is here.
Sakadawa.
It's like.
It's a little off in India, you know, I mean, because the time difference.
Debate whether it should be in sync with the Indian timetable or ours.
Yeah.
Anyway, Shantideva gave us this time slot. This is when.
This is our time slot.
Yes, actually, May 19 is the first day of Sakadawa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we
Let's see. That's what we
sort of
figured.
determined. Yeah.
So we know when it starts. We're still
So we have
out
on our website, and it'll be in the emails. On our website is a page devoted to each day of Sakadawa and what we're doing. Since we're talking about it, he also has asked us to accumulate 100,000 Tara mantras.
Yes.
Which we'll have some more conversation about that at a separate time. But also, I mean, since I'm talking, I'll just keep talking.
she has the floor.
The other element is that so we'll have our own sessions that we organize. We'll have the mantra accumulation, which people will be able to do individually and then send us your counts, or as a group. We'll have it be both.
Right.
We want to be sure that we go way over the 100,000. And let me explain how this 100,000 Tara mantras. Tara is well, you want to explain a little bit about, I think he's talking about green Tara.
Green Tara, is it Om Mani Padme Hum?
No,
No.
Tara to Tara.
On that
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, what Geshe Nima said was that Tara is sort of in charge of accomplishment.
Yeah.
Right.
And getting things done.
Mhm.
He suggested Tara because Christopher and I recently have completed the legal work to turn the place over, all of our stuff to the Tibetan Buddhism Center for World Peace. And so I asked for his help because now we need to start to take more outward steps to build the future. And he said, well, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's do these Tara
Let's do
mantras
these accomplishments.
now.
Yeah.
And we'll also be sending out an email. We'll be organizing one of the days during Sakadawa, and we'll check with schedules, because I think we want to have a live in-person meeting involving our board, because we're at the point now where we want to take a small step to start to consciously now, not just in Christopher's and my mind, but together building the center for the future, right? When we're long dead.
Well put.
You know, we look at all you young people under 50 and go.
Young people under 50.
Anyways, anybody under 60 is considered.
So young. Really, it is true.
That's it for now. But anyway, lots of we're excited and we're hopeful that something can come.
Okay. All right. We'll just do a little review. It was two weeks ago, because last week we had our Sangha Fest. Did you all see the link to Serkan Rinpoche and as Yoda, as we
Yes, I was confused by, but I thought.
Yeah. So it's very interesting if you read it, because of anybody who feels like a connection to Yoda, who was a Star Wars fan, actually what it means is that we have it's an amazing thing. So much of the world has a connection to Serkan Rinpoche,
Right.
which is an incredible lineage.
First decided
If you read
it
about
was an intentional act of Serkan's to expand his.
Well, I you know, and as you know, if we go further into Star Wars, we'll see that there's more and more and more of the Bodhisattva path is definitely in there. The filmmakers knew it.
Well, and they always say an enlightened being knows
Right.
how to show up
Mhm.
and take different forms.
Different forms, there you go.
Reach the
Mhm.
people, it speaks to us on our level. So
Absolutely.
you really went for Yoda, there's your level, and now
Right.
you're in.
Right,
You've
look
got
at all
your
the little
connection.
kids who were just,
Right.
the generations. Yeah, us. I mean, we were pretty young when Star Wars came out. All right, so let's see. Yeah, last time we talked about how His Holiness said that in order to, bodhicitta is the thing that is actually the best thing we could have in our mind. It is the cause for all happiness. And he says, in order to have bodhicitta, we really need to have an understanding of the nature of suffering, what suffering is, how sentient beings suffer, so that we can really understand this and have a more equal view of all beings. And so we talked about 3 kinds of suffering and samsara: the suffering of suffering, which is we're all aware of, is the kinds of things that the kinds of pains and aches and things that we don't like. The suffering of change, when things change, everything's impermanent, and that can cause the stress for us when things change. And then there's this all-pervasive suffering, so that as long as we have this grasping at an independently self-existing ego, then we are going to be trapped in this cycle of samsara with contaminated aggregates, and we'll never be able to get out of it. So cutting through the ego is one of our main tasks. It's one of the main aspects of mind training that we have to accomplish, and we have to see the importance of it. So he also said, His Holiness said that we really, as if we're on the Bodhisattva path, we should understand, have just sort of an outline of what that path is, so we know where we're going. So we talked a little bit about this. There are 5 paths the Bodhisattva goes through: the path of accumulation, the path of preparation, the path of seeing, the path of meditation, and the path of no more learning. And we went through that all last night.
Incidentally, Andy Weistrick does a very nice job of showing how those align with the generosity at the 6 perfections.
Right. And within those 5 paths, there are also what we talked about before prayer time, the 6 perfections, which are also seen as the Bodhisattva path.
The paths align with her.
They do.
Yeah,
They absolutely do. So these perfections: generosity, ethical discipline, patience, enthusiastic effort, meditative concentration, wisdom. There are then 4 more, which is skillful means, prayerful aspirations, spiritual power, and completely uncontaminated, exalted wisdom. So when all of these are called, these are the paramitas. And when we're on the levels, these 5 levels of the Bodhisattva path, during that time, once we've had a realization of emptiness, so from the path of seeing, which is a realization of emptiness, to the path of meditation, a Bodhisattva goes through these levels, these bhumis, these 10 levels, and each of these 10 levels are associated with the perfecting of one of those paramitas. So as a Bodhisattva, you are actually perfecting patience. You finally perfect, then you go to the next level and you perfect your generosity, and on and on and on up to the top. So by the time everything's perfected, boom, you're a Buddha. And you're able to really, really benefit all beings. So we went through that. We also talked about, and this is important to today's talk, how there's no inherently existing I or other. We talked about how we think of anything, actually. If we think about a person or a pencil or a planet, we think that each one of those things has some individual kind of entity that moves through time as things happen to it. But what we discussed past couple of classes was that's not what Buddhism talks about at all. It says there are just instantaneously moments. There are moments and moments and moments that are like, you could think of them like frames in a film or pixels in a movie, which if you can isolate them, you could say, oh, these are just a separate little thing. But the frames of the film go at such a pace that we actually don't see each separate instance of the film. We see what seems to be a moving continuum. Mm-hmm. And what we were talking about, that is what is actually happening to any phenomenon. It's a moving continuum of instance. So there is no actual identity or an I or a me involved in that. It is just a continuum of these instances of consciousness and instance of form. And so here we're now moving up to today's topic. And consciousness is the phenomenon that is aware. Consciousness is the phenomenon that cognizes. Consciousness is the phenomenon that experiences. That's what consciousness is. It's aware, it cognizes, it experiences. So earlier and later instants of consciousness are neither identical nor different. You know, they just instantaneously appear. Consciousness manifests in different ways according to karma, whether the karma is good or bad. But in itself, I want to make sure I get this. In itself, consciousness always consists of moments of mere knowing, clear and cognizant. That's it. That's it. So it's dependently arising. I and other are just labels that we put onto this continuity of consciousness. But I and other actually are not real. They are like an illusion. They are like a hallucination or a mirage. They are simply an idea or a label that we've put onto these continuities of consciousness. So then this was an interesting point from a couple of weeks ago. So the continuity of consciousness that exists, say, in a human being in this moment is different from the continuity of consciousness of that human being, that same human being, 3 years from now. And it's different from the continuity of that consciousness, say, 3 lifetimes from now, that same continuity of consciousness that is now either an animal or a ghost or an ethereal being or something else. That I that was, Christopher or Kevin or Kavita or Dicky or Ajay, that I was merely a label that was put onto that continuity of consciousness. When it's something else, if you're reborn, for instance, as an animal, well, you're no longer Kevin or Christopher or Kavita or Dicky or Ajay or Tracy. That's not what you are anymore. That was just the label for that consciousness. So we need to understand that this thing that we call I or me or other is nothing more than a label. If we can sort of get our mind around that, we can make a lot of progress with this. The problem we have is that we are so habituated to thinking that way, to thinking I, mine, other, theirs, that we don't, it's very difficult for us. And they say it's even difficult for people who are extremely intelligent because we are so habituated to this. It's very difficult to cut through it. So, but if we can get this view, it gives us the metaphysical basis or the transcendent basis that we need in order to do what we're now going to be talking about, is the meditations on equalizing ourselves with others and the meditations on exchanging ourselves with others. We have to get in this idea that I and other are merely labels. Okay, so we're starting at, this is equalizing self and other. We're at chapter 8, we're stanza 90, and this is Shantideva. Strive at first to meditate upon the sameness of yourself and others. In joy and sorrow, all are equal. Thus be guardian of all as of yourself. So in the commentary to this text, Khenpo Kunpel says there are 2 things that we have to practice on the level of bodhicitta, of relative bodhicitta. Relative bodhicitta. And that is the meditation on equality of self and other, and the meditation on exchange of self and other. So that's what we're going to be doing today. He says if we don't train in the equality of self and other, it will be impossible for us to do the exchange of self and other. We won't get it. We won't do it. So we have to do equality first Get an understanding of that, and then do the exchange. All beings, including ourselves, are exactly the same in wanting to be happy and not wanting to suffer. In addition, all beings, I mean, even, you know, insects, although they don't use the words we use, but all beings think in terms of I and mine. You know, my ant pile, my place in line as an ant, you know, all beings do it. We can see this with our pets for sure. It's quite clear. They fight over their food with one another, you know, my crunchy bites. So because we have this concept of I and mine, we also have a concept of other, right? And what we think of is that the other, just like the, you know, puppy who's next to the bigger dog, trying to get the bigger dog's crunchy bites. Well, the bigger dog goes, you are alien to me, get out of here. These are my crunchy bites. This is what we do. We think of other as being something alien to us, unless we consider them mine, like my baby, my child, my puppy, my wife, my family, like that. Otherwise, they're not ours, right? So he says there's no basis for I and mine in ultimate reality. There isn't. Ultimate reality is everything is empty of any kind of independent self-existence. So there goes I and mine right out the window, as well as other. So because of this, we all have the conception of other as something alien to us, although this too has no basis in ultimate reality. Like I said before, I and other are unreal. They're totally illusory. They are a hallucination, really. They're merely mental imputations or labels. When the non-existence of I is realized, the existence of other will not exist anymore, because what you have done is once you remove the I, there is no other. It's like this is impossible. They say it's impossible to cut the sky with a knife. And in the same way, once we've realized egolessness, it's impossible to make a distinction between I and other when there is no ego, when there is no self like that, no inherently existing independent self like that. It will be impossible for us to make that distinction.
Say, maybe a different way to put it is not that we don't make a distinction about the appearance, but that our level of involvement and interest, or our caring about.
It's how we care. It's how we view. It's our view. If we can change our actual view.
I mean, what I'm thinking about is like we won't become schizophrenic.
No, we won't become
being confused about who.
Not if we follow the path correctly. If we just stop here and say, yeah, now go home. Yeah, you could get schizo over this, but we're not going to just stop there. You know, we're going to move on. Okay. So in stanza 91, here's what Shantideva says. The hand and other limbs are many and distinct, but all are one. The body to be kept and guarded. We all understand that, right? Likewise, different beings in their joys and sorrows are like me, all one in wanting happiness. So if we think of our bodies, you know, we have our hands, our internal organs, all of our limbs, our cells, all of these things, we can distinguish them. You know, a scientist can look at this and we can see all the very various parts, but we understand that it's all a composite. It's all one thing. It's all one body. And this is the way we need to be looking at others and us, others and I and others, is that it's actually all one big I. It's all one big body of consciousness and form, if you want to look at it that way. And it's just, what this is, it's just a new way of habituating our mind to think about things. We become so accustomed to think the other way that it just seems completely alien. But there's actually no logical reason why we can't do it. I'll see how he puts this. If we were to ask someone how many bodies they had, they'd say, what are you talking about? I only have one body. So if we continued and asked, well, are there many bodies that you should be taking care of? They'd probably say, no, I only take care of this one body of mine. And that's probably what most of us would probably say. But the fact is that when we talk about my body, we're merely applying a name to a collection of different items. The word body does not refer to a single indivisible whole. So there's no real reason why the name body should not be extended to include others. Like this is a whole body of people here collected together, right? There's a body of people who are, with us here, joining us on Zoom. We are all one body of people.
Well,
okay?
they'll say things like the upper and lower bodies of Congress, meaning the House of Representatives.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, since beginningless time until now, our minds have entered into the generative substance of our parents when they came together, right? Following that, because of that, they came into being this body that we identify as mine, right? We think of it as myself. And because we think of it as myself, we can't tolerate its pain. Because it's my body, we can't tolerate its pain. But when we actually talk about suffering itself, there actually is no difference. When you're talking about suffering, there's no difference between the suffering of Dickie or Ajay or Tracy or Kavita or Christopher or any of us. It's all suffering. It's all a big body, you might say, of suffering. We just think, because I label it mine, it's the most important and it's the worst. I feel it the most, right? But we can see with the example of a mother and her baby, if that baby is very sick and in a lot of pain, this is intolerable for the mother. The mother would almost rather die than see the baby suffer. That's because the mother is so identifies herself with that child. And basically what Shantideva is saying here is that we can actually get to that point where we so identify ourselves with others that it becomes intolerable for us to see them in pain and to see them in suffering, just like a mother can do. It's simply we have to come to a decision of identifying with others. It's not just about me, right? Identifying with others. And it's an interesting thing. They say that it's a long period of habituation isn't necessary for this kind of experience to occur to us. Khenpo Kunpel takes the example of a horse trader, horse seller, who he's getting his horse groomed. He's making sure that the horse has enough hay and water and isn't sick, because he's getting this horse ready to sell. So while the horse trader is taking care of the horse, he's very concerned about everything about the horse. We could even think of this in terms of like if we're selling our house, right? Mm-hmm. You're concerned about everything, right? But the horse is better because it's an actual living being. So as soon as the deal is made with the buyer, horse trader doesn't have to worry about it anymore. It's all out of his hands. And now the buyer goes, this is my horse. I need to make sure everything is okay with my horse. But there's nothing in the horse itself, the horse itself that says, I'm this person's horse and I'm that person's horse. It's just the horse. The horse itself doesn't belong in that way. The horse is its own entity. We need to see that. We need to understand that. We get this way about a new car. As soon as the car dealership, they're taking care of that car, making it shiny, beautiful, nothing's wrong with it. As soon as that car is sold and you own that beautiful new shiny Jaguar, the very first scratch that is on is it's like you so identify with it. It's as if the surface of your body was cut. You can't stand it. You get angry, you get upset. And it's all because we're saying it's mine. So we can see we do that. We obviously do that so we can extend that. We can actually do that with others. You know, we can do this more and more and more, just like the way we do with the thing we think of our puppy, you know, my baby, my wife, my house, my car. We can go, my other sentient being, you know, my friend, my enemy, my stranger. I care about all of them. And this is just, we need to start to habituate ourselves to this idea. There's nothing to say we can't do it, except, you know, we're so used to clinging to I that it just feels totally alien to us. He says here, in a similar way, there's not any reason why the notion of I must be applied to me and not to another. I and other are no more than conceptual labels. The I of myself is other to you guys, right? And the I of all of you is other to me. It's the same as, so it's all relative. It's the same as here and there. What's here for me is actually there for all of you. It's there. It's completely relative, right? Here and there are just relative terms. I and other are just relative terms. It's that same kind of thing. So there is no such thing as an absolute here or an absolute there. There is no such thing as an absolute I or an absolute other. And so because of this, this is a crucial point. This is a crucial point we have to get. The Dharma teaches when the designation I is associated and combined with other sentient beings, the attitude of accepting and taking them as one's own will naturally arise. So this is something we just need to train our minds to do. We associate the concept of I with everybody. We sort of combine our I with all other I's and just start thinking in terms of a much larger body of consciousness, and that we do not want to tolerate the suffering that goes on. We do not want to tolerate the ignorance. We do not want to tolerate all the wrong views and the pain it causes, because it is part of our larger body of who and what we are. And so we just need to start habituating ourselves to thinking along these lines. This is how the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas identify with sentient beings as their own selves. As was said before with Khenpo Kunpel's example of selling and buying a horse, taking sentient beings as one's own doesn't require lengthy training. We all have done it. We all know how to do it. But still, we might think because we have such bad mental habits, the thought of taking others as oneself will never arise. But here's an interesting thing that the Buddha said. The Buddha said that in all the world, he never saw anything easier to educate than the mind itself. In all the world, nothing easier to educate than the mind itself. He also said, there's nothing more difficult to control than an untrained mind. So you can see what our task is. We have to train our mind. This is mind training. When they talk about mind training in Buddhism, that especially in Mahayana Buddhism, the essence of mind training is, as Geshe Nima said, we need to not be selfish, but we need to be, and I love the way she put this, we need to be other fish. We need to be other fish. It's just of training our mind to take in more, see it differently. Again, remember, there's no absolute here or there. It's just point of view. So we're training our mind to have a different point of view, So now we get into the exchanging self and other. And this is stanzas 140 through 154 of chapter 8. Khenpo Kunpel has a commentary on this. So this is stanza 140. He says, the Shantideva says, take others, lower, higher, equal, as yourself. Identify yourself as other, then without another thought, we're exchanging now. Identify yourself as other, and then without another thought, immerse yourself in envy, pride, and rivalry. Okay? So what we're doing in this meditation of exchange is we take other beings, whether we perceive them to be our inferiors, superiors, or equals, and we consider them as ourself. We put ourselves in their position. And when we've changed places with them, we meditate without allowing any other thought to come in the way. So first we put ourselves in the position of someone we see as being worse off than us, okay? And we allow ourselves to feel their resentful envy toward us. Next, we put ourselves in the position of someone who we see as a competitor, a rival, on the same level as us, maybe. And we allow ourselves then to soak in their sense of competitiveness and rivalry with us. So we're changing places with them, and we're looking at us from their point of view. We're looking at ourselves from their point of view. Finally, we take the place of someone who we perceive to be better off than us and allow ourselves to feel their pride and condescension toward us. So we're thinking of somebody who we think is superior to us. We switch places with them. They're looking at us, and we allow ourselves to feel their sense of looking down on us, somehow that we're lesser, okay? So when we use each of these three meditations, what we're doing is we're systematically generating the antidotes to arrogant pride, jealous rivalry, and resentful envy. The reason that we need to do this is that as soon as even the slightest kind of virtue appears in our mind stream, these three things, jealousy, rivalry, pride, and envy, these three things enter our mind stream right away, as soon as any virtue arises. And they follow in its trail. So pride, rivalry, and envy are like demons that eat away at our good character and integrity, which is why applying their antidotes is so important. So here we go. This is natural. We're actually going to do this now. So we're going to practice now envy from the point of view of someone who's less well off than us.
Is this straight out of Shantideva now?
This is straight out of Shantideva and Khenpo Kunpel, with a little bit of, me in there. Of the 8 worldly concerns, remember we've talked about 8 worldly concerns. There are 4 of them. Here are the 4: being recognized, having possessions, receiving praise, and having pleasure. These 4 things are what the things that can make us proud and arrogant. None of us would choose to be seen as pitiful and wretched. So in order for us to perform this exchange, place yourself in the position of someone like that.
Like what?
A homeless beggar.
Oh, pitiful.
A homeless beggar. A homeless prostitute. A homeless street person.
Drug addict.
Place yourself in that position, right?
Fun baby gone wrong.
Mm-hmm. Imagine that you become that homeless person, and that homeless person becomes you, who's nearby and inattentive to the homeless person. Now allow yourself to feel the homeless person's resentment and envy toward you. So here's Shantideva 141, and this is all coming from the homeless person now, okay? That person's the center of attention. I'm nothing. And unlike that person, I'm poor without possessions. Everyone looks up to that person, despising me. All goes well for that person, For me, there's only bitterness. Looking up at your former self, now regarded as someone else, you're the homeless person now, looking at you, looking up at your former self, think how happy that person must be, well off and respected. You, on the other hand, are nothing, nobody, a complete down and out, despised, and utterly miserable. The person you're looking at has plenty to eat, good clothes to wear, money to spend, while you have nothing. That person is respected for being capable, well-disciplined, contributing to society. You, on the other hand, are dismissed as a loser, a deviant, shameful. That person enjoys comfort and happiness. You have nothing but the clothes on your back. Your mind weighed down with worries, your body sick and suffering the discomforts of heat and cold. Here's stanza 142. All I have is sweat and drudgery, while that person's there sitting at ease. That person is great, respected in the world, while I'm the underdog, a well-known nobody. You have nothing but a life of drudgery and discomfort, while that person can just sit back and enjoy their life. That person has money, meaningful work, a family, friends. You, on the other hand, are a complete nobody, without distinction, well known to be good at nothing. As these thoughts pass through your mind, feel your resentment and envy growing toward that person. And now here's stanza 143. What? A nobody without distinction? Not true. I do have some good qualities. Compared with some, that person's lower down. And compared with some, I excel. Even though you have nothing to show for yourself, you might well ask that person what reason they have to be so arrogant. After all, the existence or non-existence of good qualities and concepts of high and low are all relative. There are no absolute values. Even when people who are down and out, like you, can be found to have something good about them, relatively speaking, compared to someone with even greater capabilities, that person's not so great. Compared with someone even more destitute than me, feeble with age, lame, blind, and so forth, I'm much better off. After all, I can still walk on my own 2 feet. I can still see with my eyes. I'm not yet crippled with age. I at least have something. Then we go to stanza 144. My discipline, my understanding have declined, but I'm helpless, ruled by my defilements. Much as that person is able, they should cure me. I will be submissive even to that person's punishments. If that person retorts that you are despicable because your discipline and understanding are a disgrace, or that you have no resources and so forth, this is not because you are evil in yourself or that you are just inept. It's because your afflictions of desire, ignorance, avarice, and so on are so powerful that you are helpless. And so you should retort saying, all right, if you're such a great and wonderful Bodhisattva, you should help me as much as you can. You should encourage and remedy the poor condition of my discipline, my view, and my resources. If you do help me, I'm even prepared to accept punishment from you, harsh words and disciplining, just like a child at school learning to read and write who has to be disciplined by their teacher. Stanza 145. The fact is, that person does nothing of the sort. By what right, then, does that person belittle me? What use, then, are that person's qualities to me, those qualities of which they're so possessed? The fact is that you, the great Bodhisattva, are doing nothing for me. You don't give me money or even a scrap of food or something to drink. So why are you passing yourself off as someone so great? You have no right to look down on me, no right to behave so scornfully to me and to people like me. And anyway, even if you did have any genuine virtues, if you can't give me any relief or help, what use are they to me? They're totally irrelevant. stanza 146. Indifferent to the plight of living beings who tread the brink of evil destinies, that person makes an outward show of virtues and even wants to vie with sages. After all, if you are a bodhisattva, but can stand by without the slightest intention of helping and saving me and those like me, who through the power of our evil karma are on our way to the lower realms like falling into the mouth of a ferocious beast, if you have no compassion, you are yourself guilty of something completely unspeakable. But not only do you not acknowledge this, you are all the time passing yourself off as someone wonderful. The fact is, however, that you have no qualities at all. In your arrogance, you want to put yourself on the same level as the real bodhisattvas, those beings who are truly skilled and who in their compassion really do carry the burdens of others. Your behavior is totally outrageous. So this is how Shantideva is instructing us to meditate on envy and resentment as the chief antidote to arrogant pride. And really, it should be, if we feel like our egos have sort of been hit, that's good. That's what Shantideva is trying to do. Shantideva is trying to point out the ugliness of the ego itself, the ugliness of this I and mine. And so by appreciating the suffering involved in being an insignificant and destitute person, humiliated and unable to make a living, we come to realize how wrong it is to be arrogant and scornful. It dawns on us how unpleasant it is for someone who is in a disadvantaged position when we're being patronizing toward them.
I want to
or just looking the other way.
add this thing. This does not imply that any of us here or you intentionally scorn or look down on like street people. This is an exercise to get out of what you think your view is, but to get into their point of view.
Right.
So if you think you're somehow this kind person, and you probably are, who gives street people money and tries not to judge them and says prayers with them, that's not the point here.
Mhm.
So don't let that derail your usage of this technique.
Right. But what I would also say is I know that there are those who look down on people like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who
I'm not
just
saying, I'm
look
just
the other
saying,
way.
if you're having.
Right. I think most of us.
My point is that don't get lost in, well, I don't look down on street people. Just
No.
use the technique.
No, use the technique because it's pretty powerful. It's pretty powerful.
Just use the technique of getting into their point of view.
Yeah.
And so to just clarify, the meditation on envy and arrogance is the antidote for pride.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah. I myself had a really powerful lesson, I think. It was a lesson somehow for me. We were driving back, we were on a trip in the wintertime, driving back from California to Texas. We were in New Mexico, and it was a nighttime. It was cold, there was snow, and stopped at a Circle K to get gas, and I needed to go to the bathroom. And so as I was going into the Circle K, there was this guy just huddled down next to the door. And I mean, his hair was a mess. He was very thin. His, obviously they were, old clothes. He was a street person just sitting there in the cold. And I noticed him, and then I just walked in. And so I went to the bathroom. As I'm coming out, I'm thinking to myself, I really should give this guy some money. I really should do this. So we had a lot of cash that we had brought with us for the trip. So I opened up my wallet. I saw $5. I pulled out the $5, and I thought, well, that's good. I'll give him a $5. So I went out the door, and he's sitting there like huddled like this, And so I handed the $5 to him, and I said something like, "Here you go, brother," is what I said, which was kind of unusual for me to put it in those terms. And I started to walk away, and he said, "Do you mean this? Are you serious?" And I looked at him and I said, "Yeah, sure." And then I realized I had given him a $50 bill, not a $5 bill, a $50 bill. And I said, "Yeah, I mean it." the guy, I started walking back to the car, right? And the guy just got up and he started dancing around the gas station and the gas pumps, and his hands were up in the air and he was smiling. And we're in the car and I'm looking at this scene, and so it's dark, and he starts to go back down the street into the neighborhood, and you can see him as he's going under the street lights. He's like this, and he's smiling and so happy. That was a huge lesson for me. You know, give what you can give. And it doesn't, and I mean, so often people will say, well, they're just going to go and buy drugs. Don't think about what you think they're going to do with it. The fact is, he didn't have to sit there and be cold anymore. Yeah. It made him happy.
He could go into maybe a restaurant.
I don't know what.
Whatever.
Right, but that's a huge lesson for any of us. I mean, you might even consider, if you're going, going to be walking the streets of the city, have some extra cash in your pocket for that very reason. Right. Because we're always going to run across street people.
Right, and to kind of help with the, well, I've got a budget and all this kind of stuff, then budget what you can give, put it like in your car, like in singles or something like that. And then when that amount is gone, you're not a bad person for not giving anymore. That's what you can give. And you can give it all in one shot. You can give it to multiple people, whatever it is. And then that way you don't have to feel bad when you've given your last to the last homeless person. Yeah. And then now you see another one, you go, oh, I have to give. No, you've already given what you've agreed for yourself, your family, whatever.
You do what you're able to do, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't feel bad if you can't do more.
He says we should stop behaving as if we're patronizing or looking the other way. And we should begin to treat people with respect, providing them as we're able to and helping them in practical ways.
Right. And
Venerable Rabina says all the time, it's not your business what they do with it.
Yeah.
Just give it.
Right.
I just want to interject here because, when Brian and I were in India with Geshe Nima, we've been into so many situations where they were people, beggars, begging, begging. And they were very adamant, all the monks and Geshe Nima and his monk friends were very adamant to not give because it was their grasping for something, and that by giving it to them would only perpetuate their attachment to the grasping. And so now I was like, so wait, I was really confused.
I think we have to use our best judgment and what seems right at the moment.
Well, like you said, it was a lesson for you because you felt that connection for whatever reason to give that particular homeless person. I'm sure you've seen thousands, in your lifetime, but some are called to you to then help.
Right.
It's the karmic connection.
In Sakadawa in Kathmandu, it's a giving time. So it's a real story what happens back there. We have Swayambhu, which is the very monastery, stupa. And I was, when was the year I was there? 18. Yeah. And then that stupa becomes filled with homeless people back then. Yeah. It's about a 2 mile circle. People from India and everywhere come there because that's a giving time. Tibetans give lots of cash.
Yeah.
And I was there one of this year and I had a big bundle of cash too. Of course, Nepali rupees are not,
right, yeah,
rupees for $1.
But for them,
but we do like 50. A 5 rupees bundle, and then you start giving, and then you see, down to the poor of the poor people, handicapped, open wounds, child, barely malnutrition.
The whole family.
It's horrible though. I felt so bad. Though, I went there of the intention of giving. So, I ran out of this thick of a cash in no time.
Right.
But that's the giving time. So all the Tibetans spend a lot of budget during that time. Giving this. Just for the sake of giving what you said. And after that, it's not all the time.
Yeah. We do have a community, different community from different monasteries. And then they would, instead of just giving them cash, they would cook food for them.
Right.
They would, they would be staying in the, so this time I'll be in Sakadawa, during Sakadawa in June. I'll be in Nepal, so I'll take videos of that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And
cute.
then they'll be serving tea, they'll be serving bread, they will be cooking it, you know. So you're not just giving them food, but you're also giving them, you know, comfort and,
It's a giving time.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
We have like at least
Yeah.
1,000, 10,000
Wow.
people who are
And-
going on Kora.
Yeah.
Right? Kora.
yeah, it's Kora.
Kora, and then they are doing the chant,
Mhm.
and then they're giving money. So, and then all over the Nepali people, like beggars, they would come
Yeah.
to.
So all the beggars of
Yeah,
all kinds, even from parts of India,
Right.
they come and they start. Because they know it's a giving time, and then Tibetans, like I said, it's a big giving time. So food and tea and pot and money and all that. So it's a big giving time. So I had personal experience of that.
Mhm.
And the one thing inside I felt is I kind of felt bad too, that I'm in such a state and these guys are. Then I explained myself, must be karma. I mean, why am I here? And you feel really bad because it's pretty horrible scene, like I told you.
Right,
young
right.
Kids,
Right,
malnutrition,
right.
I know. Yeah.
open wounds, flowers.
Yeah, Dharamsala is similar. I mean, every day.
What do you do? I mean, there's no explanation, but I knew I had to give, and no matter how much cash you take, it'll run out in a second.
Oh, yeah.
But
And then you also see some greed in that, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I told you, in the family, the mom and dad would be then there'll be 5 kids. So they'll be begging money over here. And then they would run and go to the other spot so they could get another money.
Yeah.
Sometimes we would catch them. And
And
that's
you
not
know,
right.
they can't be blamed. I mean, it's
But I think
it's a
the-
tough thing.
yeah, it's the topic of karma. We need to
Mhm.
understand that I'm in such a good state of giving, so I'm blessed to be here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I guess this is how the samsara runs, right? I can't fix everyone. I wish I could, I can't. So that was my difficulty. It's
Right.
Yeah.
you feel kind of bad seeing.
Yeah.
Quick question, sorry, just a practical question, because I'm thinking, when do you guys actually leave? What's,
Oh, I was gonna tell you, May 28th will
Okay.
be my last.
Yeah.
Tibetan class,
Okay.
so I'll be taking gap for June and July.
Yeah.
And then I'll continue from August.
okay, so, because we
Right.
want to have our meeting before you guys go.
Yeah.
But after you guys are back from wherever you're going. so. Anyway, I'll get the
Yeah,
dates,
All right. So now we go into
Can I add just one little thing to the conversation?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just quick, in the giving, you know, it's so easy to, like, when you have money to give, like if you've got cash and you're giving it to homeless people, whatever, you also get into that concept of the money is mine. Like, this is my money and I'm giving it to somebody else. And you can go into a mindset of it's just money. It's not my money. It's not your money. And it just happens to be in my hands. And so I'm just passing along, but it's not mine, you know. So there's so many levels of the practice.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, something that came to mind as we're telling the story.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
important.
It's so easy to do that, you know, thinking of it as mine. It's in my hands, but it's not really mine. It's just
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
it was somebody's before, it'll be
Right.
somebody's after I'm gone.
And I have to say, when that happened to me with that guy out in the snow, I was so happy.
How about the time?
I was so happy to see him so happy. It didn't matter at all. I mean, it was just like,
Where were we? We were in, was it, no, we were in,
It feels good to give.
Yeah,
was it in Bolivia? Where were we in a city in Latin America somewhere? And a lady asked you for money.
oh, I didn't. Yeah, we were in Mexico City, near Zona Rosa, but there were tons of people. I mean, it's just like
yeah,
bumper to bumper, right? And there's lots of beggars and things, and you're just trying to get through. So I'm trying to get through these people, and this woman was in front of me. You know, she was angry, and then she just whacked me.
oh,
She just hit me, and it's like, whoa.
He didn't give her any money.
I didn't. I was trying to get through, and it's you know, be mindful.
right.
You know. But it was, I mean, can you imagine in that, like, where you're shoulder to shoulder with hundreds and hundreds of people,
Right.
if you reach into your wallet to pull something out, I mean, so you just have to use your best judgment.
Well, and we had something similar when
yeah.
we were in India, you know, but it was food, you know, Brian, we were at some site that where Shakyamuni had an experience, you know, and we bought a box of crackers of some sort, you know, a large container, self-packaged, smaller one, and we were handing them out. And then it became this frenzy, you know.
Yeah.
Then they were grasping and they were like that, you know, and
Right.
and it's just like, whoa, you know, it's like you're trying to make sure everyone has, I mean, there was enough for everyone, but those who just hadn't had a chance to get theirs yet became so aggressive to make sure they got it, you know, to the point of that woman hitting you. You know, it's like, oh, just it's okay, there's enough for everyone. Take a step back.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's complicated.
It is complicated, but it's worth going through these exercises to really to think about this and to think from the point of view of the other person.
Right.
You know. All right. So now we go into, there are 2 more of these, and we got about 10 minutes for each. So this is now practicing rivalry from the point of view of an equal. Next, we make the exchange of taking the place of someone equal to or slightly better than ourselves. Someone who we feel we are in competition with, whether it's at work, in our family, or any other kind of situation that we're involved in. This situation could be something we're currently experiencing, or it could be something from our past. The important part of this is to make it personal, make it vivid, make it something that you can connect with. So just, you want to think of somebody who you've found yourself in a state of competition with, okay? Again, as in the previous meditation, imagine that you are your rival who is seeing you, that person, as the competitor. Allow yourself to feel your rival's sense of competition with you. So here's Shantideva's stanza 147. That I might excel, outstripping that person regarded as my peer and equal. In contests, I will certainly secure my fame and fortune, public renown. Tell yourself that however good that person is in terms of status and ability, you will do better. Whatever it is they possess and whatever respect they may have in other people's eyes, you will deprive that person of those things, whether in intellectual disputes and debates or even by fighting. And you will make sure you get them all for yourself. Stanza 148. By every means, I'll advertise my gifts to all the world, ensuring that person's qualities remain unknown, ignored by everyone. In every way possible, you will advertise far and wide your own good qualities, talents, and know-how, while hushing up whatever good qualities that person has so that no one will ever see or hear about them. Stanza 149. My faults I will conceal and hide under a false appearance. For I, not that person, will be the object of esteem. I, not that person, will gain possessions and renown. I will be the center of attention. So you will cover up whatever faults you have, hiding them from the public gaze, while at the same time gossiping about all the shortcomings of your rival, making quite sure that everyone knows about them. Under the impression that you are beyond reproach, lots of people will believe you, while for that person, it will be just the opposite. From now on, you will be the successful one, the center of attention. For that person, there will be nothing. Stanza 150. I will take such satisfaction in that person's degradation. I will render that person despicable, the butt and laughing stock of everyone. For a long time and with intense satisfaction, you will gloat over the humiliation that person will have to endure because of their failures. You will cause that person to be an object of scorn and ridicule, and in public gatherings, you will make that person disreputable in the eyes of others, digging out and exposing all their secret foibles. Now, I know that seems quite extreme, but I'm sure there have been some of us, I know some of us, who have been in work situations where something like that actually happens.
You know,
It can get.
I've actually done it.
Well, and in small, no, I think in small ways, we can see how maybe we've all kind of done this.
Yeah.
You know, we've sort of hidden people's good qualities from others for whatever reasons. We don't want them to look better, you know, in very small ways, we can see how this happens. And so what we're getting to see is in these meditations is the really ugly side of ego self-grasping and why we want to destroy it. You know, it does no good. So by using a spirit of rivalry in this way as an antidote to jealousy, we will come to recognize our own faults in being competitive with others. Then we'll stop behaving like this, and instead we'll do whatever we can to help our rivals with generosity and appreciation. That's the way to solve it. You know, appreciate them, compliment them, be generous with them. That's all that they want to hear, you know. But because we then, you know, take up the stance of the fight, the rivalry, we don't do it, you know. We need, this is mind training.
It's a both and kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's like they have all these fabulous qualities and I have all these fabulous qualities, and you know, they have these bad qualities and I have these bad
Right.
qualities. You
Right.
know, it's not, doesn't have to be a both, either or.
Right.
It could be a
Right.
both and.
But it's up to us, really.
Right.
It's up to us. We should consider it. It is up to us. It is our job to do this, to
Right.
train ourselves this way. Don't wait for the other person to do it. Okay, now the last one is practicing pride from the point of view of someone better off. So now this is kind of the flip of the street person, you know, looking at you. Now you have somebody who's very haughty and proud looking at you. Okay. Now imagine yourself in the position of someone who you consider to be better off than you, who looks down on you with pride and derision. Perhaps a boss or a manager or a client you have, or a customer. You know how customers can sometimes be, like people at restaurants with waitresses like that. Imagine something like that, okay? Someone who's particularly self-important and overbearing. Okay, here's stanza 151. People say this pitiful non-entity is trying to compete with me, but how can that person be on a par with me in learning, beauty, wealth, or pedigree? Think that it has come to your notice that this person, this tiresome non-entity, is trying to put themselves on a par with you. But what comparison could anyone possibly make between you and this person, whether in learning or intelligence, in good looks, social class, wealth, and possessions? The whole idea is ridiculous. It's like comparing the earth with the sky. Stanza 152. Just to hear them talk about my excellence, my reputation on the lips of all, the thrill of it sends shivers down my spine, a pleasure that I bask and revel in. Hearing everyone talking about your talents, about all your learning and so on, saying how it sets you apart from such an abject individual, all this is extremely gratifying. The thrill of it is so intense that your skin is covered in goosebumps. Stanza 153. Even if this person does have something, I'm the one they're working for. This person can keep just enough to survive, but with my strength, I'll steal the rest away. If through their own hard work and despite obstacles, this person manages to make some headway, you agree that so as long as they abase themselves and work subserviently according to your instructions, this low-down wretch will get no more than the merest necessities that are due to them. But as for any extras, you, being in a stronger position, will confiscate them and deprive this person of them. Stanza 154. I will wear this person's happiness away. I will always hurt and injure them. This person's the one who in samsara did me mischiefs by the hundred. So this is where it gets interesting. So why is it that you're being so vicious? It's because of all the many hundreds of times this person, our own ego, we're talking about karma now, has harmed you while you were wandering in samsara. Alternately, this stanza could be explained as meaning that you will wear away the satisfaction of the self-cherishing mentality and constantly undermine it, because this self-centered attitude has brought you suffering so many hundreds of times in the realms of samsara. This is how Shantideva shows the fault of not being rid of pride. When people who are in a position of superiority behave proudly and insult us with their arrogant attitude, we think, why are these people being so arrogant and offensive? But instead of being resentful and angry, we should change places with them. Using Shantideva's meditation on pride, we should place ourselves in that position of superiority and ask ourselves whether we have the same kinds of feelings of pride and condescension. And if we find that we too are proud and condescending, and we too have scorn and contempt for those we feel that we're better than, think of the powerful public figures we love to hate and ridicule. Do we not think that we're better than them? Is that not what we're doing when we're saying, that guy so-and-so is such a jerk? What are we doing there? That's nothing but pride and condescension. So we need to really, really, really look at ourselves here, okay? If we do this, we'll be able to look at those who are now behaving arrogantly toward us and think, well, yes, I can see why they feel the way they do. And so we will treat them respectfully, avoiding attitudes of rivalry and contention. Another good example is when we get in our cars, right? It's almost like we're in our own little mobile kingdom. So we're in our car and somebody cuts us off and we go, that jerk, what an idiot. What are we doing there? We're being arrogant. We're being condescending. Or if somebody, doesn't go through the light fast enough to get through and you go, look at our own minds, what we're doing. We need to be aware of this. It's not just, the big haughty boss or the wealthy person. It's us. We do it ourselves. And we need to recognize how this is poisoning our own mind. Mm-hmm. These are fantastic meditations. They really hit the mark if you spend time with them, and I think they're great. So in conclusion, yeah, we're doing good. I'll say, in conclusion to his commentary on this chapter, His Holiness the Dalai Lama says that putting ourselves in the place of others is very helpful for seeing the faults of the egotistic I. And we will become deeply disgusted with it. And it's true, I can see the look on your face. You were finding this whole thing so disgusting. And it's true, it's disgusting. The way we are sometimes.
So it's like using used toilet paper.
I know. You have to think of the I. The ego self-grasping is so disgusting. It's like using used toilet paper. It's like, that comes from Venerable Robina. She liked to say that a lot. Yeah, and it drives the point home really well.
Right.
We should make our practice of these meditations vivid and real, and remind ourselves of all the negative actions the I has made us do, all the harm it has done us, making us suffer and causing endless suffering for others as well. This is our real enemy. I, me, mine. Up until now, we've let ourselves be dominated by our clinging to I, and this is His Holiness. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could make it disappear altogether? Wouldn't we be genuinely proud if we could break it and render it powerless? We should follow in the footsteps of the Bodhisattvas, those compassionate heirs of the Buddhas, and patiently practice day and night. If we can do that, it is certain our suffering will one day come to an end. And we'll close with Shantideva's last couple of stanzas of this chapter. Therefore, this is stanza 184. Therefore, free from all attachment, I will give this body for the benefit of beings. And though it is affected by so many faults, I shall adopt it as my necessary tool. Like the Buddha's heirs, in their compassion, I will bear with all that should be borne. For if I do not labor night and day, when will my sorrows reach their end? Thus, to banish all obscuring veils, I'll bend my mind from the mistaken path, and constantly upon the perfect object, I shall rest my mind in even meditation. And that concludes chapter 8. It's a pretty powerful chapter. I mean, Geshe Inu was telling us this morning that His Holiness says if you can only look at 2 chapters in the Way of the Bodhisattva, it's the chapter on patience and the chapter on meditative concentration. And that's what he suggests everybody look at. And I can see why. When I first, Kabir and I were sort of going over these a few days ago, getting ready for this, and I just was blown away by these meditations, how powerful they were when you really take it to heart. You know, how we're seen by other people. If we, for instance, if we could see ourselves swearing at other people in our car, and it was on video for everybody to see, we go, oh my God, look at me. Right. I'm that person that I say I can't stand. So these are very, very, very helpful for us to do. And I don't think we should be afraid to do it, because this is our task. This is what mind training is about. So let's see. We'll do a quick. Any comments, questions? Yeah.
So this is something we're meant to do periodically.
Yeah, periodically. And when I'm putting these videos up on YouTube, I'm now also right at the YouTube site. There is a link right there with the video that says for the study guide, and you will get each week's
thank you.
Everything.
Oh wow. Thank you.
So right there with the videos, plus I'll send out, like I've been doing, the links.
Mm-hmm.
Because these things have to be read over and over again.
Well, I mean, the way you change is by doing that
practice
over and over.
Right.
That's one thing to do it once here in class,
but basically seeing yourself from somebody else's eyes.
What's cool about this is it points towards the general topic of dependent arising, or relative truth, ultimate truth, or emptiness. That whole bundle of the wisdom wing is kind of,
oh yeah,
it only works because of the wisdom wing.
I mean, when we get to the next chapter, which is a chapter on wisdom, we're going to see how much of this has led us up to this wisdom wing, this part. I mean, this wisdom, all of this wisdom aspect is in every single one of these chapters that Shantideva has laid out. It's gradually bringing us closer and closer and closer to this final chapter, which I don't know how many classes that's going to take. So let's do just the final dedication, then we get right to Tibetan with Dicky. Okay, just the final dedication prayer. In all my lives, may I not be separated from true lamas, and so enjoy the splendor of Dharma, fully perfecting the virtues of levels and paths. May I speedily attain the state of Vajradhara. Hallelujah! Okay, all right, turn this recording on.
Yes.
This isn't for dummies. Okay.
Okay, pull this baby back.